Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matthew with Watty's channel. Welcome back. Today, we are going to continue with the trend of reviewing some of the more popular wrestling action figures and their respective toy lines. Today, we're actually going to start with the 2016 release of the Mattel Retros. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what the Mattel Retro line actually is, basically, it's a throwback to your Hasbro wrestling figures of the 1990s. Now, we all know that your 1990 Hasbro action figures were probably the most popular set of action figures to date. In fact, they are so popular that not only did Mattel Retros recreate not only the size, but also the cartoon appearance of each of the action figures. So each wrestler is its own little caricature, and they come with one of the most popular features, which is a working action feature. Now, we remember from Hasbro, you have things like, Power Slam, the Flare Snare, things like that. I wouldn't necessarily call them unique to Hasbro per se, but with the type of action feature that they had, it was really a one-of-a-kind type of deal. Now, you do have other action figures, other toy lines out there that did have little features. You click on a button or squeeze some legs and, arms move, legs kick up, whatnot. But just the intricate details that went into the Hasbros definitely made it a one-of-a-kind. As I said, today, not only do you have Mattel Retros, which are a direct throwback to the Hasbro wrestling figures, but you also have Rush Collectibles. You've got Hasbro Toys, Grapplers and Gimmicks. You've got Zombie Sailors, Heels and Faces. And Cello Toys. I mean, there's just so many different toy lines that are emulating those Hasbro action figures. Now, 2016, when Mattel decided to create the new set of retro action figures, I kind of feel like, even though, yes, your main target might be children, these are action figures after all, they are used for play, but because of the nostalgia and the amount of collectors there are in the world, they wanted this to be more for adult collectors. You're going to have your parents who buy them for kids kind of reminisce about, their heyday with their Hasbro figures. But it's definitely something that bleeds in beautifully with the original Hasbro line. Now, with that being said, I didn't know about the Mattel Retros when they first came out. In fact, probably 2 years ago when I started collecting is the first time I ever heard about the Mattel Retros. And I saw the figures. Yeah, there was some interest there due to the simple fact that they're reminiscent of the action figures I had as a kid. And theoretically, you would think that these would be such an amazing addition to the collection. But it really wasn't anything I was really interested in. And then as the collection grew, I kind of felt like I owed it to myself to pick up every piece of figures that I could from this line. Now, the one difference between the Mattel Retros and any of the other action figures I've collected, i.e. your AWA Remcos, your WWF Hasbros, your WWF LJNs, your WCW Galoobs, etc., the first figure or first set of figures I ever purchased were on card. And so every subsequent purchase from there on out was a carded figure. Now that I've got the complete carded collection over the last few months, I've been going back and trying to acquire some of the loose figures. I know I'm not going to get them all, but I'm trying to acquire as many loose as I can for kind of like a loose display up front. So, Series 1 and 2 of the Mattel Retros, they're really the only series that are going to feature 6 wrestlers in the series. Every other subsequent series, 3 through 14, has had 4 wrestlers. So if you're trying to collect these figures, the great thing is the figures are listed on the back of the card. So pick up one figure from each series. That way it kind of gives you an idea of who you need to complete that respective series. The first one we are going to look at is Undertaker. Now, here is both a positive and a negative, and it really depends on who you speak to. For a lot of people, their pros might be my con, meaning I kind of gravitate towards a certain era. Let's say 1985 to 1997. Around 97, 98, I pretty much was done with wrestling. You know, my interest kind of moved on to baseball. So, you know, all these more modern day wrestlers, you know, 2000 onward, some characters through the grapevine, I'd hear the name, like Brock Lesnar was always a big one, but I never watched Brock Lesnar, not really. And not until within the last few years when I started watching YouTube videos of like Royal Rumbles, I think that's like the first time guys like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and I don't know. I think John Cena was after I stopped watching wrestling. I know The Rock was present. I didn't really see a lot of him. I know Steve Austin was definitely present. So, you know, those, what do you call them, aggressive era. No, I'm not. That whole part of wrestling and onward, it became too much of like a talk show type, like Jerry Springer-esque soap opera. I'm like, nah, not my type of wrestling. With the Undertaker figure, what I really enjoyed about this particular figure is its similarities to the Hasbro Undertaker. With the body type, not exactly the whole same pose and everything. You know, it is enough of a change to the figure where it makes it its own unique character or own unique figure. And additionally, what I like about the figure, they substitute the original gray from Hasbro, which synonymous with Undertaker when he first came into the World Wrestling Federation, and they switched it up to this purple look. Now, if you remember Ted DiBiase, Money Inc., they had this fake Undertaker, and he would come down the aisle wearing Undertaker's normal gray. So when the real Undertaker came back, he was all decked out in purple, and so this was like your mid-90s Undertaker version. The one downside about this particular figure, just recently in Series 14, they re-released an Undertaker in purple. The exact same figure. The only difference is it had a mask on it. And I'm like, you know, I love the whole Phantom of the Opera type of look to it, but I would have preferred they create a whole different body type than what you got from that particular Undertaker figure. Now, figures like Cello Toys and Zombie Sailors and whatnot, even though they may sometimes put on the back showing kind of like working actions, they don't have those features. They're more for like nostalgia for fans who are kind of used to seeing that action feature on the back of their cards. Mattel Retros, you know, they're actually keeping it in line with the Hasbros with the working feature. And, you know, these little features here, up and down, little power slams, I'm okay with that. It's a very simple, easy pose. What you'll also notice about many of the Mattel Retros, the same exact issues you find with the Hasbros. Meaning, Hasbro recycled body types like crazy. And there's only, I think, 2 or 3 unique body types in the entire Hasbro line. Mattel Retros, same issue with recycling same body type after same body type after same body type. It is frustrating, and there's a number of body types that we're going to come across over the series that I absolutely despise, and some of the worst figures ever made I think are going to be found in the Mattel Retro line. So that is Undertaker. Now we do go in line as the way that they are shown on the back of the card, meaning your next one up is Roman Reigns. So when I looked it up on the wrestling figure database, there's supposed to be like 2 different versions of this figure. One with kind of like a Superman Super Punch type of deal. I looked at the cards; they all look the exact same. I really don't know the difference, but you know, you're going to find that with quite a few where they're going to show kind of variants. But I don't even think that they even have legitimate variants out there. Maybe they were just prototypes. If there are anybody out there who has any of those variants, you know, take photos for me. I'd love to see them. That's incredible. Roman Reigns. Overall, this is a pretty solid figure. In fact, it has the potential to be one of the best, but unlike your Series 1 Jake Roberts, Series 6 Tito Santana or Papa Shango, figures like that. Your Series 5 Hulk Hogan, etc. Billy Gunn from Series 11 Hasbro, where the arm punching motion, the arm is just so oddly big compared to the left arm. And I'm not even talking about like lengthwise. It's also the fact that his, like I said, muscle-wise, it just looks like he's Popeye on this side and just a random guy, regular arm on this side. So that funky look right there, I don't like that. It detracts from the overall figure. I don't wrestle these guys, of course. They're simply display. But my mindset, when you come to wrestling action figures, is the whole point of them being playable toys, playable action figures, right? That is what an action figure is supposed to be for. It's supposed to be for play. And when I look at that, the way that the arms are kind of like positioned inward a little too tight. Not as bad as figures like Seth Rollins or Goldberg and etc., who we're going to look at again throughout the series, or throughout the line. But it's still a little bit too much inward, not to my liking. But again, just a punching motion, very simple, very comparable figure to a lot of the other Hasbro arm punching motion figures. Next up on the docket is the Ultimate Warrior. Now, I have a couple of different versions of this warrior from Eric Boyer, Wrestling Writer, my custom warrior. The one where he has like a Hulk Hogan body type and, the beautiful head mold of Ultimate Warrior. And then Ram Treasures, they created a Warlord version of Ultimate Warrior as well, using a Warlord body to make this exact figure. This is a fantastic figure. There's no doubt, if it's going to come down to some of my favorite Ultimate Warrior figures, this would be near the top of the list. Obviously, if I'm including customs, that's going to push the figure further down, but it's still a quality figure. But a lot of these figures that are like, I don't know, John Cena type, or I'm trying to think of another one that has very similar body types. So when you actually look at it, you got the abs on here, and then you got like this separated, chest area, and I hate that. And basically all it is kind of like a little power slam, body slam type of deal. And the whole idea is you hold them up, the little action feature is supposed to like, a little power slam or something, I don't know. If you are an adult, or if you're a kid or whatnot, and you're using playable action figures, for me, the Hasbro Series 3, if I want an Ultimate Warrior, that's going to be my primary go-to figure, because that's one of the greatest poses ever. If you don't have a Series 3 and, it's too expensive and you don't want to grab that one, I think this will be the next up in line, followed by Hasbro 2 and Series 1. Overall, quality figure, a definite must-have for any collector. Ultimate Warrior merchandise in general is always a top-notch and always a must-have for any collector. You don't even have to be a fan of Ultimate Warrior to appreciate his figures and the value of his figures. Sticking with that same body type, we move on to John Cena. I've talked about before, like, I saw very little of The Rock when he entered WWF. He became more popular after I stopped watching, and I don't even think John Cena was wrestling at the time that I was watching. He could have, but I don't think so. I think he was 99, 2000, somewhere in that time frame, if I had to put a date on it. So, John Cena and, Dwayne Johnson, I like them more as actors, as movie stars, than I do as wrestlers. Now, if I met them in person, yeah, I'd want to take a picture, shake their hand, thank them for, their years of work and dedication, putting out a great product. I guess to an extent, yeah, you could see me being a fan of them as wrestlers. Why not? I mean, if I'm a fan of them as a person, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen some matches. It's not like, you're never going to come across any matches featuring those two guys. They're both legends. And the John Cena figure, same thing as Ultimate Warrior, as I said. Kind of have that little move to the side power slam thing. If this was just a regular black shorts, black pants, or black boots, black shoes type of deal, it would be a very simple figure. Nothing's flashy. But the fact that they come with that built-on hat, I think that makes the figure stand out and pop so much more, and makes it a definite must-have as well. And the body type, as I said, overall, it's a quality figure. It's not anything too shabby, and nothing I hate on. I really don't like the whole separation of stomach from chest and all that, but it does the trick. It's a good-looking quality figure. Love it to death. Amazing. John Cena. Next up, we're looking at Kevin Owens. Now, Kevin Owens is one of the few characters in this line that does have multiple figures. Now, I know, listening to like Hulk Hogan, do little podcasts, whatnot, and he has such an affection for Kevin Owens. I don't think I've ever seen Kevin Owens wrestle. Again, very few of these modern day wrestlers have I seen wrestle. And earlier in the video, I mentioned, depending on who you spoke to, who likes, whose pros could be somebody else's cons. In my opinion, there's a certain period between, I said, 85 and 97, something like that. We'll call it 85 to 2000, make it a little bit easier. So, there's certain characters I care about. Releasing Iron Sheik was fantastic. You want to come out with Sting? Absolutely. Hulk Hogan. Do we have, we have Mattel Retros of Hulk Hogan. We have the ringside collectible versions. Of course, Macho Man, yes. And then you have the guys that should have been made had, the line kept on. Such as, Tugboat was in line. Even though Mattel Retro's Tugboat was terrible. The American Lex Luger, a new version of Doink with the new wrestlers, replacing Matt Bourne. The most important figure of this line, I think, was Diesel. Diesel absolutely would have been made had Hasbro continued on. Goldust was a definite inclusion in the line. Perfect. Even though they haven't had it yet, Mabel. Mabel would have been a great Mattel Retro. Yeah, you got it from Grapplers and Gimmicks, but I'm really hoping that Mattel does put together that figure as well. So, with that being said, some people like the fact that there are old school and new school wrestlers mixed in together. Me, I kind of gravitate only to, your 80s, early 90s wrestlers. So, a lot of these new guys, like a Kevin Owens, who I don't know very much about, I acquire the figures for the collection to be complete. That is it. And I always said a good figure is a good figure, and I stand by that. This is a very playable wrestling action figure. And he's kind of like, I don't know who's a good one. I think Dusty Rhodes has the feature. Andre the Giant definitely has the feature. You kind of push back on the body and kind of headbutt forward. So, when you look at guys like Smash from Demolition in Series 1 of Hasbro, or Honky Tonk Man in Series 2, guys whose arms are straight out, this is my favorite pose. It's open arms, everybody is straight up, beautiful, playable figure. Again, if you're looking for a go-to wrestling action figure from the Mattel Retro line, this is probably a top 5 figure based on that. Now, obviously, with how you care about particular wrestlers, or if you appreciate color scheme, yeah, that would probably drop it down some. But a go-to figure, if you're wanting to have an individual match, absolutely, Kevin Owens. And you got the little detail of his tattoo. Again, overall, fantastic. All right, last figure. And it is Brock Lesnar. So in this first line, re-releasing The Undertaker and re-releasing Ultimate Warrior, guys who were part of the original Hasbro line, making them part of the Mattel line makes sense. They are two name brand household names. And then you bring in a couple huge names like Brock Lesnar, who's probably one of the most popular wrestlers in the game right now, so to speak. John Cena, absolutely. Kevin Owens, every time I hear somebody talk about him, they just toot his horn like crazy. So, Roman Reigns, another mega superstar that you just hear so much about. I understand in this series having a nice little inclusion there. Me personally, if I'm Mattel Retros and I'm a CEO or I'm authorizing production of certain wrestlers, kind of looking at this, Undertaker and Warrior could stay, but I probably would have added guys like Hulk Hogan, of course, because you always have to have a Hulk Hogan no matter what toy line, even though I think his figures are done to death. But Hogan, I would have included Macho Man, Bret Hart, maybe Andre the Giant. I would love to see an Andre Mattel Retro, but we got the Andre the Giant from Zombie Sailors, and that's a perfect figure. We got the one from Hasbro, of course. So, all right. So with Brock Lesnar, he has that open stance like your Hogan and your Warrior and your British Bulldog and all these other figures that have open hand, and it's just a very another common pose where the little arm popping motion. The detail of his tattoos are absolutely remarkable. This is an overall fantastic looking figure. Is it the best playable figure because of his open hands? It kind of takes away from the overall value. I kind of feel like this is the must-have figure. You're going to get a lot of enjoyment from it regardless. And if you're putting together, 30 quality figures regardless of line, Brock Lesnar, I think his namesake and the awesomeness of the overall figure, I think he could, hit your top 30 list or so. Why not? Brock Lesnar. I didn't do any research on him. I really don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, I know he's got like a multiple time heavyweight champion. I mean, I don't know if he's pushing like, John Cena, Ric Flair territory or anything like that, but man, it's freaking built like a darn dump truck. UFC fighter, transition to wrestling, incredible. Royal Rumble champion. The man is just ferocious. And who was that? There was Bray Wyatt. A couple of big names. I mean, you think of guys like Bray Wyatt's a big guy. Brock Lesnar. Throw them in there with like Randy Orton and Steve Austin and like Kane. The Rock, big buff guys or big, strong, powerful guys. Though that right there, you put those guys all in the Royal Rumble all at one time, that would be an amazing matchup. All right, so guys, it takes care of your 2016 Series 1 of the Mattel Retros. Depending on how long it takes me to film each individual video, the goal right now is to post the videos on back-to-back days. I don't know if that's going to happen. I've been finding it harder and harder to come down here and make videos, so unfortunately, if I can knock out at least one video and get it posted and come back, post another video 3 or 4 days later, we're going to have to make do. Alright guys, so that is all I have for now. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and if there's any information that I didn't include, or if you want to fill me in for personal knowledge, that's going to be a huge help. Thank you guys, and I will talk to you in the comments. Goodbye, everybody.